All right, guys, it's Vera Sweeney from Zombies Are Real. This is the podcast talking about all things horror. I watched Polar yesterday. It just came up on Netflix, and I thought I'd give it a shot because I am such a huge fan of Mads Mikkelsen, and I'm oddly attracted to him in like a really strange way. Like he's a lot older than me, but there's something about the way he presents himself. I don't know what it is. Like I usually go for the really loud guy who's super sarcastic and just the guy that sort of is all full of jokes and humor and the one that makes me laugh. And Mads is the complete opposite of that, and I don't know, there is just something about him. So when I saw that he was the lead, I was like, I'm into this. I'm going to watch it. Let's see where this man takes me on this journey. And it ended up being an over the top, super gory. I mean, I had to actually look away, and I'm not somebody that looks away. I am a horror fanatic. And there were certain scenes, I mean, a nail gun to the nuts. What? That was like within the first 3 minutes, and that's where we went. I mean, I was just like, what is happening, Netflix? I was not prepared for this type of exposure in my robe on the couch. What is happening? I was actually feeling what was happening on the TV screen as I was watching this movie. So Polar, long story short, Matt's character is named Duncan, and just like any other assassin movie that we watch, this man just wants to retire. He's exhausted. He's looking to call it quits, but you know, once you get in, it's really hard to get out. And so, he just can't seem to get clean of his sort of hitman world, and they keep pulling him back into this space, even though he's trying so hard to move on with his life. And when the opening scene where he ends up annihilating a group of about 10 or so people, the hit was actually him. He was the one that was supposed to die, but he made the first move as the good ones typically do. So it's very gruesome. I just want to say that right off the bat, this is not a subtle film. There is a lot of blood. There's a lot of torture. Again, I'm not very comfortable with torture scenes. There's a moment in this movie where we see this character sort of hanging and being tortured over and over again. I believe it was something like 4 days, and he with nose clippers and stabbings and pulling metal out of his body because he's being really, like, with very fine tools, being tortured over and over again, blood everywhere, and the camera's not pulling away. I mean, we are watching this. That was sort of made me, again, a little bit uneasy. I love that sort of sci-fi, alien, ghost, devil, possession. That's where I normally lie. I don't normally lie with the jigsaw, psychotic neighbor next door kidnapping you and chaining you in the basement. That's not really my cup of tea. So I was a little bit surprised to see the movie get so red, but I stuck with it because I was so invested in the cast. Now, I do want to note Vanessa Hudgens is the main character. That she plays a lowly looking girl. Her name is Camille, and she's afraid of every noise. Obviously, from the beginning, you know something happened to her. She jolts every time somebody opens a window. She's either been abused, raped. You don't know what's happened to this woman, but something has happened to this woman in the past. And then you have Duncan, who's Mads, sort of feel for her, and not that he was sexually attracted to her. That never presented itself, but he looked at her as somewhat as a wounded bird, or, you know, he looked at her as if he felt like he wanted to fix her in some way. And so he offered her shooting lessons, and he just felt like he needed to help her. And he started to form a relationship with her, and Camille took it with open arms. Now, I have to say, every time Vanessa Hudgens was on the big screen, I just stared at her lips, her nose, and her teeth. And I kept saying, did this girl do something to her face? Because she just doesn't even look like herself. I mean, it was so, her face actually looked different to me. And I know that when women put makeup on, we are magicians, don't get me wrong, but it was so different. She didn't really look like herself at all. It almost looked like her face had widened, or I guess I haven't seen her in quite some time. I'm actually going to look up a little bit to see if what she's been doing over the last 1 or 2 years. I haven't really been keeping up with her, so I don't know what she's been doing. And she just looked very different, very, very different to me. I was shocked to see her with this no makeup look. And I bought into this fearsome, lonely girl. And when she broke down at the end of the movie, which we'll get to in a little bit, she did tear me up. I did start crying when she sort of opened up and revealed herself. Finally, we found out who she was when she had that heartwarming, open, emotional scene. I cried. So she definitely brought it in this movie. So Catherine Winnick, she's another one that I love. I love Catherine. She's from Vikings. I don't know if you guys watch Vikings, but she's, I think her name was like Lagertha or Lagatha, something along those lines. But that was on the History Channel. I was totally obsessed with her. She was totally amazing on the Vikings. She didn't have that big of a role, but she brought it. She gave it 110% when for what she did in that role. And she was on the evil side. She was definitely part of the hitman empire, and she was almost like an advisor to the kingpin, telling him, let this man go. Let the assassin go. We are going through a lot of trouble here. He's killing an awful lot of our people. He just wants to retire. Why are we going through all this trouble? She was almost like the voice of reason on the shoulder for the kingpin, but he would not listen. And in the end, she gets killed, actually. And it was a pretty awesome scene. And Netflix, I don't know if you're watching Netflix, but they have this new feature where when they know it's a killer scene, a really awesome scene, all of a sudden they have this little button that says watch it again, because they know, they're like, that was amazing. They're like, you want to watch that scene again. So obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, we're talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the show. So let's just talk about that scene for 1 minute when Vivian actually goes down. We have our main player here, Duncan. He's confronted by about 15 to 20 hitmen at once, with her in the center. And, it's sort of like their last goodbye. And she's sort of talking to him. She knows that her hitmen are about to kill him. She knows this is the end of the line for him. She walks away as if she's giving him her final farewell. And as she's turning away to walk away to allow and to signal her bodyguards to kill, Duncan sort of does this Batman-esque move where he uses these gloves, which are assigned to a war machine behind him. I don't know how else to say it. It's almost like a tank machine gun that's connected to these gloves that are on his hands that are all working together with lasers. And as he points to the people on the floor, as he flexes his hands, moves them left to right, pointing at the people ahead of him, the lasers are directing the guns behind him in a machine gun formation, shooting hundreds of bullets at a time and annihilating the group within about 15 seconds. No one even has a chance to shoot a bullet back. My mouth dropped. Did not expect that at all. Literally, I was sitting there and I was like, how is this dude gonna get out of this? Even if he pulls his gun out, how can he get away from all these guns? I was literally sitting there going, I just don't know. I don't know how he's gonna get out of this one. Does he have a bomb? That's sort of where I was. I was like, oh, he must have a bomb. But then no, they brought this like amazing moment. And even Netflix was like, hey, that was incredible. With a click of a button, you can watch it again. So be sure to check out that scene if you haven't had a chance. I hope you've had a chance. I really don't want to spoil this for you. This is more about talking about what we've seen rather than me ruining a whole entire movie for you. Okay, so moving on. Another person I really, really have to talk about, Ruby O. Fee as Cindy. Sexy. I was like attracted to her. Like I was just like, wait a second. This girl is out of control. Her sex scene that she has with Duncan lasts about 45 minutes, right? I was like, how did she not have an orgasm yet? I don't even understand how that's physically possible. They're really pushing it here, pushing it to the limits. Like I watch zombie apocalypse shows and that sex scene was unrealistic to me. Like I watch the undead rise from the ground and that's more realistic to me than her having sex that long and not having an orgasm the way she was giving it. I was like, okay, oh wait, we're still going at it. Oh, another position, and you haven't had an orgasm yet? What is happening? It was completely gratuitous. It was completely over the top. I mean, Mads, he hit the jackpot. The writers were just like, wait a second. Why don't we let them have sex and then we'll have the sniper in the snow kill him in the middle of the scene? And everybody's like, that's a great idea. And then they were like, but you know what we should do? We should have Cindy do 47 positions all around the whole entire house just so the audience knows that they're actually having sex. And then everyone was like, well, why would we do that? And then they were like, because it's Cindy being naked all around the house and it doesn't make sense in the script and it's going to take up 45 minutes of our hour 30 movie, but I still think we should do it. And then all the men in the room were like, that sounds golden. Like, yes, let's do it. So me watching that scene, I think I made myself a sandwich. I think somewhere along the middle of the scene, I got up, I made a sandwich. I came back and they were on position number 467. I was like, I think I had an orgasm watching the scene and she still hadn't had it happen yet. I was just like, okay, yeah, we're still going now. This is still happening. I took my kids to school. We came back. I made dinner. It was still going. So it was a little gratuitous, just a little, but she's hot. And honestly, I hope she does a lot more. And I hope it's not only scenes like that, because I mean, there was a moment where she went in to try to do a hit on somebody and he touched her inappropriately. And then when she killed him, she started crying and she was hitting him. And it got me a little bit emotional. So I know she has more to give than just her TNA. So I hope she does more, and I hope she does more that's not just focused on her in a thong. So, what else do I want to say about this? The cast of characters that were along the lines of the whole entire movie, I really liked them all. And like Johnny Knoxville sort of opened up the movie, and my husband and I were watching it, and we were like, Johnny Knoxville, what? Like, this dude is back. Like, I can't believe it. But he dies within a couple of minutes again, with Cindy giving him, like a blowjob. So it's like you kind of invest in people and then they're dead. So a lot of these people I really liked, like Faye Wren. She lasted a lot longer than Johnny Knoxville, but I really liked her. She was a great supporting character. A lot of these hitmen that were part of the whole entire movie, they really played their part, and they played their part well. Just again, there were, I don't know, Richard Dreyfuss. I mean, these small moments that you're sitting there and you're going, is the dude singing in the bar Richard Dreyfuss, or am I crazy? But yeah, it's Richard Dreyfuss. So they did have a lot of cameos in this movie that were unexpected and were enjoyable. So let's just jump to the tail end, the whole sort of summation, the buttoning up, how this all came together. So the girl, Vanessa Hudgens, the reason why she was so afraid, we come to find out, is that her family was killed. A hitman was hired, and he killed her family. Well, fast forward, and guess who that was? That was Duncan. He was the hitman many years ago. He was the one that ended up killing her family when she was just a child. And when he was in the car, and when he was trying to finish up the job, he decided that he couldn't do the whole entire thing and kill the child. So he left the child alive. And all these people, so you have an hour and a half of 100 plus people trying to kill this hitman, and nobody could succeed. And in the very last moment, he finally sits down for a break. He tries to take a break, and who's behind him with a gun? Absolutely unexpected. Vanessa Hudgens' character, Camille, admitting that she knew all along that he was the hitman, and she was just trying to get close enough to him to be able to get into shooting distance and finally kill him. This is something that she's wanted to do her whole life. And she said, when I close my eyes, you're the only person I see. I've been thinking about you my whole entire life. You ruined my whole entire life. And, Duncan, who's known as the Black Kaiser throughout this whole entire film, he has been fighting for his life for this whole film. We're watching him kill groups, SWAT teams, hordes of men and women. I mean, the top elite men are chasing after him, trying to end him. And he looks at Camille, and he closes his eyes, and he says, do it. Just do it. Because at that moment, I think he finally realized this is how it should end, because I wronged this person. This person deserves to do this to me, because I have wronged this child. I wronged this woman. I ruined this woman's life, just as I have ruined all these other victims' lives. All those other people did not deserve to kill them, because all those other people were evil. They were all at him for the wrong reason. But in that moment, I think he was just so tired of his life and his lies and the hurt that he offered. That's all he offers in life, is hurt. That when he saw this innocent woman sort of crying and admitting that he had ruined her life, that he didn't want to hurt her anymore, and there was nothing else to do. He wasn't going to kill her, so that wasn't an option. And if it was between the two of them, he knew he wasn't going to hurt her. So the only other option was to cave. And so he said, go ahead, it's okay. Just pull the trigger. And he closed his eyes and he sat there on the bed and he gave into the notion of death after we watched him fight death for the entire film, which I thought was really a little bit poetic. But at the tail end of it, she decided that he was also a victim and he was just hired help. He was always just hired help. It was never personal. It was never personal for him, for the Black Kaiser. It was never his order. He was always just doing somebody else's job. And through meeting him over those few weeks, she registered that he really is not the one that was pulling the trigger at the end of the day. And, through the movie, we also learned that Mads, his character, was paying for her education by paying cash through an anonymous bank account and paying for her education her whole life. And that's how she ended up finding him. She ended up finding him through receipts and transactions. So it was showing a little kindness and a little regret and a little grief and a little remorse and a little humanity, if you think of it, that he did that. So I think the combination of him admitting that he felt for this child, he let her live, he paid for the tuition, he allowed her to, he did not fight the death. He showed her kindness when she admitted weakness when they first met. She saw a different side to him that maybe her whole life she didn't expect to see. So when she met him, she met a different version of who she expected. And the way the movie ended was it looked like they were about to try to figure out who was the person behind the original hit. Who was the person that called in the order? And so my guess is if this movie does well, they just laid the foundation for the second movie. So in the end, like I said, I thought it was a good ride. I thought it was super gory. Super, super gory. Super gory. I just cannot say that enough. I did not expect it to be that gory. I have younger children that are slowly getting into horror movies, and I always like to watch the movies first. And within like 7 minutes, I thought to myself, well, this is off the list. Like, there's just no way that we can watch this movie with them. And then once I was 20 minutes in, I said, forget this. This is never happening. But at the end of it, I thought it was really well done. I really enjoyed it. And like I said, all the supporting characters I really liked. I liked every single person that they brought in. So I would definitely be in for a second round if they decided to bring in a Polar 2. So that's my podcast for today. If you'd like to chat some more, you can find me online at Vera Sweeney. And thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. If you have any comments, I love to chat about this stuff. This is the whole reason why I pretty much started this podcast. I have such a love and a passion for horror movies or anything having to do with this type of genre. But unfortunately, everybody in my life is just not with me on this. And so I figured that's what the internet is for. So I will find my people if my people are not finding me. And until next time.